I'm going to talk about a man named John Oliver. John Oliver does a television show called Last Week Tonight. And I used to be a fan of his. It seemed like a fun show until around the time that Trump started to run for office. And the reason why is because after around the time that Trump started to run, every episode of his started to be anti-Trump, anti-Republican. And I don't want everything to be about politics. His show was interesting before, and now we've got a show that's all politics. And the fact is, a lot of the things that he says just isn't true. He's very manipulative. Uh, when you compare him to other people, a lot of the other people are easy to disprove, but he's a lot more difficult to disprove, but not impossible. The reason why is because for him to disprove, you have to do your research. If you accept what he says, he sounds like he's stating all these facts, but his facts don't hold up. I'm going to use a story that he did. It was about a coal mine. It was about a mining disaster. You can look it up. It was probably 2017 or 2018. He doesn't have that many videos, so you'll be able to find one about a mine disaster. And what happened was there was a collapse within a mine, and people must have died. And then maybe a federal agency fined the mine, which they allege was for doing something improperly. And John Oliver says, "Oh, this is the biggest fine that was ever handed out." And there were other issues that were relevant. I don't remember what they were. Maybe this mining company was cited beforehand for some sort of safety practice, which was the key to everything happening because they were cited once before. So I researched this and I watched this video, and here's the flaws. Number one, an earthquake happened at the same time that there was the mining disaster. So a logical person is going to say, well, the earthquake probably caused this disaster. And I believe that there were a total of 3 earthquakes or something like that happened within a short period of time, like within a couple of days. Now, the other thing, the reason why John Oliver is just not stating facts is because when the agency says you have to pay this fine and it's the biggest fine of all time, guess what? They don't have to pay the fine. Just because somebody says you got to pay this fine, well, they're going to go to court, and they did go to court. And the court determined they didn't have to pay the fine. And this happened, I'm pretty sure, before John Oliver's show. They had already had the court case, and it was determined that they didn't have to pay the fine. And there was a substantial reduction to the fine, which made it not the biggest fine of all time. So that was another hole in his story. Okay, so there's this other story, which may have been the first one. I don't remember, but it's something very interesting that I saw. Something about unions and raises for the CEO or the board, profits and things like that. And he was saying that this company was profiting from something, but they were denying maybe health care to some of their employees. And he was making some sort of argument, if you're making so much money, why can't you pay for healthcare for your employees or something like that? And I don't remember exactly what the story was. If you see something about profits and healthcare in his account from 2017 or early 2018, that's going to be the story. And if you play the story, there comes a point where he's reading a news article, and there's a highlight. It's highlighted in yellow, and he's reading it word for word. And guess what? He did not read it word for word. He skipped over one word in the news article. And I was reading what was highlighted while he was speaking, and I said, why did you skip over that word? Because when you skip over that word, it substantially changes his argument. And the issue was something about company making a lot of money, but withdrawing health care for certain employees, but it ends up, it was something about non-union employees was a key word that he had skipped. And it's like, why don't you say that they didn't pay non-union employees? Well, then we have an issue, because now it's not every employee, it's a portion of the employees. And if you know anything about unions, There's no such thing as a union that has a small portion of the employees as a member of the union. The unions are usually the majority of the employees. The non-union employees are a minority. So I didn't research any further to determine what proportion were non-union employees. But this is a point where I already realized that John Oliver was fake news. And it was just one more thing. I said, you know what? I've been watching your videos and I've been analyzing them a lot more carefully. And I said, a lot of your stories have mistruths in them. And that was the big one that was plain to see for everyone. So don't believe John Oliver. He's a liberal who is he has a liberal point of view, and he will not tell the truth. He knew that word was there, and he chose not to say it. He's not a fair and balanced person.